Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome to another episode of Student Access 101, the podcast with Dr. Tameka, where we discuss critical conversations in the pursuit of equitable education for students that are underrepresented. I'm your host, Dr. Tameka. For those of you that don't know me, I am an educator, I'm a researcher, I'm an empowerment speaker, and I'm a lover of all things educational advancement and growth. In 2012, I became the first African American professor of fashion at Kent State University. Before that time, the university had hired a full-time African American professor or a full-time African American instructor, never a professor. The difference is an instructor only teaches, whereas a professor has teaching and research responsibilities. So I was the first. That job did not come easy to me. I had to fight for that job. And oftentimes, when you're the only one, you feel as though you're in a constant fight to be seen and a constant fight to be heard. With no fight, you just shrivel away. And I refuse to shrivel away. I have always been a fighter. And I soon realized that not only did I have to fight for myself, but I also needed to fight for my students of color, particularly my Black students. God gave me a voice, and it was my responsibility to use that voice for the betterment of my students and their experience at Kent State University. It is so important that students of color have the opportunity to be taught by teachers of color. Seeing an example of greatness that looks like you is important for your self-esteem as well as student self-efficacy. Without the many teachers that I had who looked like me, my life would not be what it is today. My next guests know this all too well and have dedicated themselves to the work of supporting and promoting students of color. And so I'm going to bring them all in one by one. It's the whole team. Hello, Dr. Shantoria.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Hello, David.
Hello, what's good, everybody?
Hello, thank you. This is my first time having more than one guest, so this is exciting. I'm very excited about this. So thank you all for being with me. I know we've been in communication for, a little while now, and I really appreciate you all agreeing to spend some time with me this evening.
Absolutely.
Yes, thank you.
For having us.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, thank you. And we usually do come in deep when we come into an event.
I guess that's the only way to come in, huh?
Right.
If you're going to come in, you got to come in deep, right? Absolutely. So for my audience, for people that are watching, Education Powered is a 501c3 nonprofit organization committed to developing an innovative model of culturally responsive, identity-centered schooling. Education Powered conducts educational research to produce instrumental frameworks, resources, and teacher education. Their mission is to spark a revolution. I love that. Revolution, absolutely. Is to spark a revolution through education that liberates our students, our communities, wherever they may be. They do this through creation of culturally responsive solutions that energize educators and empower students. And so Student Access 101, I present to you Education Powered, David McDonald, Dr. Shantoria Walker, and Danielle Ross.
We got to bring you everywhere we go, Dr. Tameka, with that intro.
Right.
Yes. Thank you so much again. And I want to go ahead and jump right on in to the questions. So I would love for the audience to get a chance to know a little bit about each of you. So in 3 adjectives, can you describe yourself to the audience and explain why you chose those adjectives? So 3 adjectives about yourself and why you chose those adjectives. Go ahead.
I'll start off.
Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
This happens. It's okay. We're gonna get it, y'all. So I would say 3 adjectives to describe myself would be passionate, optimistic, and ambitious. One, being an entrepreneur, those are 3 adjectives that literally you have to identify with in order to be successful in the entrepreneur space. But also, doing things in education and really trying to shift the culture of education requires you to have a level of grit, and a level of not taking no as an answer attitude. And that's really just the person that I am and the way that I navigate in a lot of different spaces. But I also just believe that you have to be the best of the best, right? You have to represent yourself at a very, very high level and operate at a very, very high level. And so, yeah, that's why I would use those words to describe me.
Awesome. Yes. I love when you said grit. Absolutely. You got to have some grit about you. Yep.
Okay.
David?
Mike next.
Yes.
So 3 words I would use to describe myself, I would say would be adventurous, goofy, and persistent. So I see you shaking your head on the goofy part. Adventurous. I think I'm definitely the one to try new things. Even when I was a classroom teacher, I was willing to do something outside the norm. Like, let's go outside on the basketball court. Let's go to the track and do some learning there, right? So taking a risk or doing things out of the ordinary is something that I always take with me in my life, even in my social life too. Like, I'll go and try new things and do new things at any time. Goofy for sure. I like to enjoy the experience and enjoy like just the moment. And so I will always find myself laughing or smiling on the call or just in an environment. So definitely very goofy. And then the last one I said was persistent. So I'm never going to, just like Danielle, I think it's probably why we're so close as well, is that we both never take no for an answer. If you tell me no, it's probably going to push me harder to get to see how far I can get to a yes. And so just being very persistent and like not giving up regardless of the challenges that come forth or how many times you hear that it can't be done or this is impossible. Like, I'm going to say either way, I hear all that. I'm going to be adventurous and go beyond that and just persist till I get to the outcome I'm looking for. So.
Wow. Yes. Yes. All right, Dr. Shantoria.
Okay, so I feel like my 3 are change maker, innovative, and authentic.
Yes.
I show up how I show up. Everybody know that I talk to everybody, whether it's in my professional or my personal life. You're going to get what you're going to get when you see me. And at the end of the day, that's just, and I love it because it allows me, that's where the authenticity piece comes in, because then it allows other people to be comfortable around me based on the things that they see, and allow my students that I taught, when they walked into the classroom, hey, you're going to get me and I want you to bring all of yourself. And so that is something that pushes a lot of things. I try to use the innovative, the technology, the anything that can transform the state of education, the state of the world, the state of whatever we're living in right now. I'm going to try it. And so that's where the innovative and the change maker comes. I believe that some of the things that we need to do is we need to continuously evolve with the change. And if we're not, we're going to continue to make those mistakes that we have throughout generations. And that's something that we don't want to happen. And so that's where I'm coming from with my 3 adjectives.
Wow. Wow. I love that. So were all of you guys educators at one time? Like, so were you guys all in the classroom at one point? Okay, so who's still in the classroom? So is any of you all still in the classroom? Okay.
No,
okay.
We're all out of the classroom, I believe.
Yeah. All right. So this is a sister brotherhood situation here, because I am also out of the classroom. I was in the classroom for about 14 years. Ooh. And yeah, out of the classroom now.
I love that.
Yes. Full-time entrepreneur on this empowerment journey. Absolutely.
That's where we're trying to
go. Yes. So I found out about you all through your IG profile, Young Black Educators. I was on IG and I wanted to find some information or find people that were interested in Black educators. So I typed in Black educators and you all came up. And so I started looking at the things that you were posting. I started looking at your profile. I'm like, wow. And first of all, you guys had over 25,000 followers on your IG. And I mean, the information that you put out there is just so amazing. It's encouraging, it's supportive, and I love it. It's fun. It's fun. Like your bio said, energizing. Whenever I look at your post, everything is always so colorful. Everything is always, just so energized. And I really enjoy that. And what came first? Did young Black educators come first, or did education powered come first?
So I guess it'll be for me. So,
Okay.
so I guess to answer the question, just the short version is that they kind of both came at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So, the ideas during my first year of teaching in the classroom, just looking at what we were experiencing. That first year of teaching is very hard. So we are learning about what class, like how do you actually manage and build a classroom that is engaging and fun, and knowing how to teach in the same environment, learning about we're taking classes and doing all this professional development outside of school too. But that first year was just really tough because I know that in our school, me and Danielle, we taught at the same school. And so it was hard to find resources that actually supported our Black students. We were at a predominantly Black school in Dallas ISD. We're the only predominantly Black school in the district. And so, we were looking for specific resources and training and support to help teach our Black babies. Because we were we were learning about everything else but that. And so I think we were looking for resources outside of the classroom too. Like, okay, what else exists in the world of helping us build an encouraging classroom? Like, what should curriculum look like? What should the culture in the classroom look like? And what we found is that it wasn't a lot of resources available at the time. And so after we kind of did our own organizing together and planning, we're like, you know what, we need to just do something and start making resources available to other people too, who might be having these same challenges. Like you're first in the classroom, or you're a new teacher, or maybe you're a veteran teacher too, and you're struggling with finding resources that are actually going to engage your students. And so that's where the idea for Education Power comes, is to fill that exact void. We're like, so I know this is our first in the classroom, but we're not too young to create a network and create a hub where people can find resources and share the things that they're doing in their classroom to help support Black students.
Wow. In
addition to that, we know that young Black educators is like what we need too. We said we know there's more of us out there.
Yes.
Create a community where we can actually connect and see more people who are doing what we're trying to do in the classroom, but also encouraging other folks to join the work too, because 7% is not going to do it. 9% is not going to do it. Or teachers in the classroom who look like us and who can actually speak to the experiences of our students. And so we created Young Black Educators to help garner that community and build that up as well. So long-winded answer. I hope I got to kind of
yes.
How they.
I'm about to say, hey, y'all need middle-aged educators too.
We do.
You need middle-aged educators. Absolutely. That's wonderful. That's what I love about it is that from the very beginning, you all were thinking outside the box about how or basically for you, I mean, I'm the kind of person that believes that there's no box at all. So you guys were thinking beyond what was just available to you in your peripheral. So whenever you guys develop resources, do the resources have to be, in order for teachers to use the resources, do they have to be approved by their school board or district, or do you guys run into any issues with that, or like how do you navigate around that?
I think that there isn't really like a approval process. I think it's a lot of motivated by the teachers. And so like if they want resources, or even school leaders, like if they want the resources for their teachers, then they buy them. They reach out and they want them. Or if they want a training or things of that nature, then they ask for the training. And we've really seen a lot of support from all levels, right? So it's like the teacher level was just resources and like one-on-one training, to the principal school leader level, even at the district level, of just really individuals wanting to transform the experience for their school or their leadership team, really just reach out to have access to those resources and trainings that we offer.
Wow. Do you all connect at all with teachers that are teachers of color that are in predominantly white schools? Like how do they, I see Dr. Shantoria shaking her head. Yeah. So how do they navigate those kinds of spaces?
I think that's the creation of the community of young Black educators, right? Because we recognize that there are small subsets of educators who kind of feel isolated. They kind of feel alone, like
Absolutely.
David spoke to, the 7%, the 9%, and when you get higher up, the 2%, right?
Yep.
Going even further. And so one of the things about young Black educators and Education Powered and the materials is that even as first year teachers, we all went to University of Texas at Austin together, the three of us. But we kind of went away and then came back together with this. And this was something that was amazing. But what we realized in our stories is that within our first year, we figured out how to create something that wasn't created. That was something that was very unique. That's something that worked for our students. And so what we're finding within the young Black educators community, with those people that might feel like they're creating, is like, hey, you did that, let me try that. It might not have to go through this full process, but guess what? It worked for my kids. Let me find something else here that's engaging, that actually represents the kids, that represent the kids that I teach, versus me trying to always just stay, like you said, within the box.
Yeah.
So we realized we were all innovative within our first year without even knowing, because I didn't teach with them, but we have a lot of the same struggles, a lot of the same shared experiences. And we found that the young Black educator community also has that as well. And I feel like that's what is the energy that's kind of spreading, and those are the people that we continue to attract. So
yeah. Wow. One of the things that I don't understand is how school districts don't see the importance of making sure that you have teachers that match the demographic of the students. It blows my mind that I think about my children's school. My little boy goes to elementary school. He's in 4th grade. There's only one Black teacher in his whole school. One. The school population, there's probably about 30% Black students at the school and one Black teacher.
Wow.
It baffles me, but
I mean, it's not uncommon. Like that
it's not.
Story for a lot of our, especially in our public schools across the country too. Like I mentioned earlier, that only 9% of teachers in the country identify as Black. That's it, right? Only 9% of educators who are currently teaching identify as Black, right? And 2% of those being Black males. And so you'll see a lot of, a lot of schools that don't have any Black representation in the teaching staff or in the their campus staff at all.
It's interesting. As a college professor, we also struggle with that as well. I was the only and was the first, and it was difficult. It's difficult when you're the only one, in your department or in your school. It's really difficult, and it can be challenging. And one of the things that I found that helped me be successful is that I found resources outside of my school. And that's what you all are providing, resources outside of the school where they can, really find the acceptance that they need. They can really find the support that they need and be able to just commune with people who understand what they're going through.
And I think that's the beauty of what we've created too, because I felt like even now in the more recent years where you do major book adoptions, right? We did major adoptions when I was teaching, and the district will say, okay, we're reading this and everybody's reading it. Everybody's going to read the same book at the same time. And you start to get into the curriculum, whether it's math, science, English, social studies, and students are not seeing themselves and they become disengaged, and everybody trying to figure out what's going on, what's happening, why are the kids not loving this? Studies show that this was an amazing curriculum, but we're missing the representation of our kids, of ourselves. We can't connect to the material, to the resources, and not saying that our resources will replace, but it definitely enhances the student experience, which is what a lot of our work is around.
Yeah.
Like that, so
have you are connected with any parents? Like, have any parents ever, gotten with you all to thank you for what you're doing, for those? Because I think about, again, my boys. I have 2 boys. I had just gone to do a speaking engagement I'm in Ohio. And so I went to do a speaking engagement at Oberlin College, which is in a little town in Ohio. And they have a lot of monuments of the Underground Railroad. And so I went around and took some photos and everything. And I brought the photos back to my kids. And I was like, look, mommy was able to see the Underground Railroad, like monuments and things. And they were like, Underground Railroad, what's that? My 13-year-old was like, what is that, a train? And I said, what? So here I am, a parent, having to figure out now, how am I going to educate my children on things that they need to know? And so actually tomorrow we're leaving to go to DC because I want to take them to the African American Museum and talk them through our history. Because at 13, my son should know what the Underground Railroad is.
It should have been discussed in school, right?
Absolutely.
It should have not been excluded, which is something we're tackling now from the curriculum.
Oh, yeah.
So that's how I felt,
Wow. Yeah. The whole critical race theory situation. I mean, I'm sure that's something that you guys were probably all dealing with, that was rough. That was really rough. A major component to what you all do is liberate. You all really hold that dear, and that is part of your mission, is to provide education liberation. And so can you speak a little bit about why you felt, and to use that word liberation is a pretty strong word. Like, why do you guys feel like it's important to liberate our teachers and our students?
And I think we can sort of all just share our perspective around it, because I think that it's different based on where we are currently, even in the education space. I think that a lot of times getting to certain levels in education, and I know even with your background being at the collegiate level, teachers and educators are not empowered, I don't feel, to truly navigate classrooms the way that they should be able to. They're not empowered financially for the work that they
Yep.
do. They're not empowered
Yep.
with resources that they need. And so for me, liberation first happens through being able to give teachers the resources and the tools necessary to educate in the way that they know best for their students, which in returns liberates students, because they have teachers in the classrooms who want to empower them, who want to impact their lives. And so, like, when I think about liberation and setting people free, it's taking the bondage off what we currently see as education, the sitting in the rows, the teacher talking all the time, like literally the mindset behind what education has always been, which we know has not always been for people who look like us, and like giving it back to the teachers, giving it back to those individuals who do care about the students, who are putting in the work every single day. And I think that that's true education liberation. I think the tricky part is like how that happens is starting all over.
Right.
Like looking at it completely different.
Yeah. Anybody else want to speak on that?
Yeah. So with mine, and adding on to Danielle's piece, so my research is in using culture responsive pedagogy to influence literacy achievement for Black male students in particularly. And so in my background, specifically for Black male students in the literacy component, I was seeing that a lot of the students from my community, so I was fortunate to teach in the area, the first teacher to ever teach in the community, in the school that grew up in the community. Does that make sense? I taught at the school, grew up in the community. The school had been around over 20 years. I asked the principal, how could you not have more teachers or educators from this community? He said, we just couldn't find them. Well, I'm here. And so I knew that had to take a unique approach to actually teaching those Black male students, because they were falling through the cracks. One of the things is that, in my perspective, the liberation piece came within the books. within the literature, right? Within the showing them that, hey, there are worlds that you guys are missing out on that could free you from whatever is going on the outside if we just open a book. And I'm not talking about just a textbook so I can learn the content and the knowledge. I'm talking about the imagination, peaking the interest, actually being able to consume yourself in something other than being constrained to, like Danielle said, sitting in the row, facing forward, being quiet, don't say nothing, can't do this. All of that, like actually freeing yourself within the literature. And I was able to open up worlds to those young men. And almost, I say, it's something to, honestly, the liberation will transcend generations when you actually introduce them to that. So beyond, you know, us coming together, liberation in all aspects of what it means, you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and that, I think both of y'all shared, you know, articulated very perfectly. And I don't think I'll add to it would be just that thinking about the community's liberation as well. Like, I think we talk a lot about schools used to be the center of communities, like where it's one of the most unique places in our community, because everybody is gonna at one point in their lives is gonna experience the school, right? Or have some kind of interaction or some touch point with the school. And so I think that the schools can literally currently be a place of liberation for our communities, right? If thinking about everything that we as Black folks and our Black communities are going through, the school is definitely a place where we can solve problems, where not only just for students and teachers, but also for the community members to come and be a part of that, for parents and families to be able to come to school for support and for community building and for access to resources, and whether that be financial, whether that be healthcare wise, right? So I think with us, we're trying to think about schooling in a different way, of not just coming a place where people come to get educated, like curriculum and about learning, but also a place where people can come to get like liberated. So everything is at one place where everybody's working together to not only just support the students, but also to support the community. So I'm trying to get to that space is where our organization is really working towards.
Yeah, you all will be very happy to know that in Cleveland, they are doing some of that type of work. I'm actually next week going to be going and being the keynote speaker for a school district that has been financially dilapidated. A lot of the school district doesn't have a lot of money. They've had some financial issues. There's a lot of crime in the city. And so they wanted me to come and talk about professional etiquette and how to present yourself in the workplace, so that once you do go out and you can, you know, better yourself, get a better job, you know, become, you know, be in a better situation that you can, you know, be able to bring your children up in. And so they're focusing on empowering parents in the community. So that is, you're absolutely right, David. It is really important to grab the community. So, and if you grab the community will spread that love and that empowerment to the students.
And I will add a caveat too, because I know some folks can see this and being like, our job is just to teach and we can't do nothing else, right? I think that is true, right? So as our current structure is set up, the schools really can't take anything else, right? They can't. We're already, you know, we're dealing with instruction by itself and also just empowering students. So adding on other layers of like parent and family involvement, and then also financial literacy and all that would be too much to handle. So we need to do some restructuring of our schools so that they can actually be able to be the center of the community and a place for liberation for communities.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, wow. What would you all say? What would it take to make schools a place where all students can succeed?
That's a good question.
And I have a lot of answers.
I know, right?
I'll pick one.
Me personally, in the current position I'm seeing the top-down structure, right? So we a lot of our work, education power work, is with in the classroom. We work with school districts. We work with, you know, holistic pieces in the students. But from my current everyday job from the top down. Everybody needs to re-examine the mission and the vision of what they are set out to do. We are set out to serve students. So in every aspect of our being, are we doing that? Did we hire the correct people? Did we pull from the diversity pool? Are we designing the curriculum to represent our students? Have we all examined our bias, right? That could be impeding instruction from the top down. And are we actually spreading that within the school system? So from my piece, starting from the top down, those are some of the questions that need to be addressed, because if there is a no to any one of those questions that I just asked, then we need to do some restructuring, some reorganizing. We need to do some redefining, and we need to really ensure that we are doing what we're saying we're doing for our students. And that is, of course, to liberate them. But at the end of the day, we got to get there. But starting with the top, that would be something that comes to the top of my mind. I know Daniel and David got something else.
Yeah, I kind of always hang my head on the biggest shift that needs to happen is shifting of power in our school districts. And you think about right now, who makes the decisions, who holds the power to move money around. It is often with the folks who are most removed from the actual day-to-day lives of our families, right? And so I think shifting power, actually giving, whether that be financial power or voting power or just decision-making power to our students and our families, and having them be at the seats will completely shift, how things are run and done in our school, just by having that representation of student voice and parents and family voice, like at the table to make those decisions. I'm not just saying like to influence and speak and then go sit back down. I mean, actually to say that we're going to do this or not do this in our school district or in our schools.
Yeah, I mean, even allowing the teachers to have a vote or say so on what's happening, because many times, as you all know, teachers don't get an opportunity to say what they need or, give their opinion about things. So if the teachers can have the opportunity to discuss what they need and have a say in what's happening. Yeah. Danielle?
I think I really share the same sentiments as Dr. Walker and David. It's tough, right? Because I think currently, right now, where we stand as an educational system, it's really recreating the whole way, the whole makeup of what education looks like. I think that there are some examples, even when we think about a worldview of like truly starting to empower students and getting students to a place where everyone can achieve. But there's a lot of things that have to happen, just that with the whole structure of education, how we recruit talent, how we pay talent, what do schools look like, what do resources look like, what should every school automatically have, like just across the board, how do we even the playing field in general. And it shouldn't be by zip code, and it shouldn't be based on tax brackets. And so I think that same thing with David. It's a lot of where the power is, but it's also just in how we decide the makeup of schools are, in order for us to truly get to a place where all students have a fair chance at succeeding.
Wow. So COVID has been a blessing and a curse for many of us. It really has. It's changed our lives in ways that we would have never guessed it would have changed our lives. But how has COVID-19 affected the state of education forever? I mean, because it's going to be forever changed. So what kind of an effect has COVID had on our educational systems?
I say this all the time. I think it exposed a lot of those gaps. You hear a lot about COVID, the pandemic. Our students have lost learning and learning loss. Well, I kind of rebut that, right? They didn't lose learning. It exposed the gaps that kids already had, and we just had the opportunity to actually teach them throughout that year the way we wanted to. But these students already had gaps. We weren't doing what we needed to be doing before the pandemic hit, and this COVID-19 pandemic exposed more of those gaps. So now what do we do? The positive piece that I like, and I've seen a change in my particular school, is the one-to-one computer and access. And I'll say it was kind of one of those things where it was a shot that it was, you know, when the surge happened, all of the students got the one-to-one computer, but it was almost like a, wow, they don't have access to internet like we thought they had. We
Yeah.
got students showing up to school,
Yeah.
and yeah, we didn't put all this money into these Chromebooks,
Yeah.
now everybody has a computer, but guess what? Because of the zip code in the area, the internet access is lacking. So now we need to start looking at that. We should have been looking at that before, but I
Yeah.
like the fact that now that we have figured out a way to actually, you know, everybody got hotspots and we're figuring
Right.
that out. And this is the way that we should have been moving. And now students have access. But the piece is that it was already there. And we should have realized it before.
Yeah.
And now it was just something that left us scrambling. And it's something that we shouldn't continue to say that our kids are losing learning. They aren't losing learning. We need to do some to not just put a Band-Aid over the loss. We need to actually close the gap in the ways that we are moving now with more technology and now with more access. So that's how I feel about the pandemic in that.
Wow. Wow.
I also think in ways it's, I mean, really, for lack of a better word, it's affected even how effective teachers are. I think in the pandemic, we know that across the board, there was a lot of job loss, and a lot of individuals who I would say didn't necessarily have a heart for education, or like really having the skill and the passion that it takes to really be effective in education, has joined the field, right? And so we have a lot of novice teachers, some who have now found that this is what they want to do forever, others who like, I needed a job, and they're always looking for teachers. And so even thinking about the impact that it is having on achievement, those teachers are often placed in schools with students who look like us in urban neighborhoods, right? When I think about my school, 80% of them, 80% of our teachers have been teaching less than 3 years. And so when you have
Yeah.
so many significant gaps, like, who are the experienced teachers on the campus, and what does that mean? And I also think that it's affected the way relationships look. I think that, you know, for some school districts, people have been on the camera for so long, and now we're just like transitioning back into a classroom. And so teachers have been looking at pictures on screens or black screens. And it's also just because even I noticed at the beginning of this year, when our students transitioned back on campus, there was a huge gap in like just social skills. Good morning. How are you? And just those things that we had
Yeah.
to like bring back, you know, or reteach, because of the effect of like just being in such a on this space where it's a computer, right? And I'm looking at you through a computer screen, and just how that is not, you don't get the warmth and the same level of
Yeah.
like connection that you would get. I think that we're transitioning out of that, but the effects of that are going to be long term, and really getting students to transition fully back is going to take some time.
Yeah. I think what it exposed to is the disparities in the house. One of the things that the school district where I'm at, they were very adamant about making sure that the children always have food to eat. They would, even though school was virtual, they would prepare lunches and allow parents to come, you know, but there's also something, you know, difficult with that too. Like, what if the parents don't have a way? What if the parents working and there's no way to get the food? But at least, you know, they were trying to make sure that the children still had access to food, you know? So, wow. The elephant in the room, of course, is that critical race theory. And Fox News has mentioned critical race theory 1,300 times in less than 4 months. Why is that? Because critical race theory, or CRT, has become a new boogeyman for people unwilling to acknowledge our country's racist history and how it impacts the present. This particular quote is from an article from Brookings. And I just wanted to find out, what was you all's response to the hype? Because that's really what it was. It was just hype. What was your response to the CRT hype that was in the schools?
Yeah, I can just start by saying it really just magnified for me how many people don't know what they're talking about. Like, It's so many people. I'm like,
Absolutely.
okay, this CRT, as in critical race theory, has maybe some overlap, but really doesn't have anything to do with culturally responsive teaching in the classroom. Like those are two completely separate concepts, and so the fact that they were being just like, acting like that they were identical twins in terms of the approach and how they operate in the classroom was just but bananas to me. It was like
it was bananas. It was
even
bananas.
when people, put it in front of our policymakers and showing that culture responsive teaching is about the approach to the classroom, the engagement, how you select your content, how you treat your students versus critical race theory being an academic concept. Like,
Right.
there was like people still say, well, it doesn't matter. We can't do either one of them. So that was my big takeaway at first. Like, there's so many people that need to be
Educated.
need to go back to school.
Right.
They come back to your
Absolutely.
position, and
You don't know what the heck you're talking about. Absolutely.
My pet peeve has been, it has turned into, like you say, it's at the boogeyman, but it has almost turned into an erasure of you're saying that I can't learn about myself, and I don't think they know about the other side. And when I say that, I the curriculum, the math textbooks in Florida, because have been banned because in any certain way they represent critical race theory. The book bans that are happening in Texas, in Katy, Texas, with some of the books. But if you're looking at what they're actually saying, even though some of the pieces that they're saying, oh, I don't want the white guilt to happen, because I also think that is something coming from white fragility that we haven't really talked about. But then on the other side, it is, are you also saying that I can't be me, that I look like this in this classroom and I'm sitting in your classroom and I can't learn about myself because somebody else may feel guilty, right? I think they have almost, it's all like, I agree with David. It's something where, everybody probably need to go back to school and learn a little bit more about this, because it is not clear. Nobody can give a straight answer. If you've listened to the different media outlets, even with Judge Ketanji Brown and the Anti-Racist Baby book, which I bought, by the way, which was also a representation, and I read it for myself. It's one of those things where it's like, are we also starting to say that people that need to be represented in the classroom cannot learn about themselves, right? And that's something that continues to kind of go in my mind the more that I hear about this critical race theory and the concept and everything. The more that the bans are coming, the more that I'm starting to ask that question even more. And it's really disheartening, right? Because there is no solution. They just say get rid of it. That was 50 books in Florida that Governor DeSantis said get rid of. So now what?
Wow.
What's the solution?
Wow.
Right? And that was math. Think about what is happening in math that you're saying that we have to get rid of 50 math textbooks because of critical race theory. So,
oh my gosh,
those are things that are continuing to kind of go in my mind. And then what's the solution to it? Nobody has it. That's disheartening.
Yeah. It was, like I said, it was just a lot of hype, a lot of distraction. I think that's a lot of what it was. And it goes to show that, as you said, people don't know what they're talking about. It goes to show that people don't care about the fact that we're not learning about ourselves. They don't care. They just don't care. I had gone to, and I'm not going to say what school district it is, but I had gone to a town hall at a school. And the reason why I had gone is I was invited from one of the local parents in that particular school district, and they were going to be talking about CRT. And the number of people that got up and talked against it, I was just in awe. I mean, and the level of passion that they had, that's the thing. It's like you had so much passion about the fact that this is not right. And I mean, I was just outdone. I was just outdone. But yeah, Danielle, I see you shaking your head. You got anything you want to say about it?
I mean, I don't have much, but just the fact that it's another example of people thinking they know, people who don't have any experience in the classroom, taking the power away from teachers again, having no idea what they're talking about, assuming things about what teachers are doing and are not doing in their classrooms. And again, it's just another level of not liberating our teachers, taking the power away from the individuals in the classrooms. Because in many ways, I felt insulted that you would think that certain topics were being described in a way that would influence children's mindsets versus just educating them about different perspectives. And I think that it's just like a lot of people who have, like David said, have no idea what it looks like in the classroom and how it looks to navigate content, just thinking that this is something that teachers are doing, and that's not the case at all.
Wow. What word of encouragement would you leave educators? So, educators that may be watching, what word of encouragement would you leave them?
I guess what came to my spirit just now is that better is coming. Like that these past 2 years have been, or just 3, and just in general, right? The past few years have been challenging on a number of fronts. But I think that when you see a shift happening like that, it's always going to be very tumultuous, like in the moment. But then what comes from that afterwards is usually something that's better. You have to go through some of that, the uprise and some of that challenge, some of that, that conflict in order to create something that's better coming out in the end. And so I think those who are persistent, my word, through this wave that we're going through now, will see us end up on a better side coming after this, because there's been so much innovation that's happening because of the pandemic and because of having to circumvent the system and try to teach students about their identities, about themselves outside of the CRT ban in our schools. And so teachers are getting more innovative. There's people who are gathering together and trying to push new policy. New organizations are being formed, and there's a lot of work that's being done. So I feel like the point of encouragement is that better is coming, and that we just have to sit in this and continue to persist and and fight for our students. And actually realize what liberation is going to be. The challenge is not going to stop. We're just going to get better through it.
I think with mine, and I just had a good conversation with a brand new teacher today. I think as a first year teacher, we try to follow all the rules and we try to gather all we can, because you can never plan for the unknown, right? And so we try to just be a fountain with all of the knowledge, but don't forget who you are, and don't forget to bring your whole self. Like I said at the beginning, to the classroom. A lot of times it gives leeway to allowing your students to be the same. And I talked to a teacher today, first year, and she was like, I'm overwhelmed. I don't know. I feel like I keep just reading text. I'm doing the activities. I'm doing everything that all of y'all are saying. But I feel like it's just, I'm just going into a hamster wheel. And I just stopped her for a minute and I asked her, who is she? What is she bringing when she steps into this classroom, right? Not physically, but I want to know who you are, right? Because when you allow yourself to be whole within this classroom, you're trying to put on these curriculums and all of the mandates and everything that the district is acting like, almost like an outfit that doesn't fit. I need for you to, who are you within this classroom? And that is what's going to spark the students' interest. And that's what's going to allow them to be themselves around you, right? And then it was so funny because she was like, oh, is that it? And so I did give her a task. So I'm going to meet with her tomorrow. I'm pretty excited. But I just told her she has to find herself, right? She's trying so hard to listen, which we do. We first year teachers, we had to follow these pieces. We've all been first year, but then don't forget who you are, because that's what's going to make the classroom come alive. And so that's something that I had a wonderful mentor and coach tell me. That's what I'm passing down to first year teachers. And that's what I'm going to say all the time. Bring yourself into the classroom.
And that's what the students are going to remember.
Yep. Yes.
The students are going to remember. I mean, I think about my teachers. I still remember, some of my favorite teachers, I'm sure you all do too. Back in 3rd grade, back in 4th grade, I remember, teachers just because of who they were. You
Just
know?
because of who they were. They brought their own mannerisms. They brought their own
Yes.
way of being. They didn't try to fit in. So
Right.
just
Right.
do that, and then that'll be, you got to remember, don't forget it. That's the biggest thing. Don't
Yes.
forget it.
Yes. Yes. Anyone else have any encouraging words?
Yes, I think the unique thing about the time that we are in now is you're starting to see a little bit of the shift in power back to the teachers. This year, it's inevitable. This was the largest. Most teachers have left the profession. I mean, you
Yep.
have senior teachers who have been
Yep.
teaching for years and years who have left the profession, and there is a want for teachers who desire to not only grow students but truly bring a change into education. And so I
Mm.
think now is the time more than ever for educators to use their voices, to use their power that they know, because they are the experts, and a lot of people want to know like what it is going to take to really shift where we currently are in education. And I believe in educators. I know that they're some of the hardest working people. And I think that,
Absolutely.
again, bringing that word back, that grit and that tenacity to see it through is what is going to continue to encourage everyone, right? Those small wins every single day, but then also advocating and continue to speak up for your students, speak up for your communities and your schools, because that is what is going to let people listen, because they're listening now because they don't have a choice. So.
Something just came to my spirit when you were talking about speaking up. Have you all ever run into a situation where you have a teacher, a person of color who's a teacher, who have been dealing with racist treatment, microaggressions, those kinds of things at her or his place of employment, and being afraid to speak up? That is something that I've run into on a number of occasions. People experiencing things, but then they're too afraid to speak up and say what's happening. Do you all provide any encouragement or empowerment for that? Because that's a huge, huge problem that many of our educators may be facing some things, but they're too afraid to speak up because they don't want to lose their job or whatever the case might be. So have you guys ever dealt with anything like that?
I think some of the things that, not necessarily in that situation, because I was one of those people too, as a Black woman, as a person that is, I'm always going to be ready to speak. I'm going to advocate. Sometimes that's used against you in microaggression. You might be called aggressive. You might be
Oh
called
yeah.
intimidating, right?
Oh
and
yeah.
things like that. I feel like the resources that we provide allow, because I've used them personally as well. It's one of those things that kind of shifts that thinking around, okay, I'm going to shift my energy from what can I control? The things that are in my power to control are the resources that we are providing, right? But being beyond that, how are we creating leadership pathways to where now you have a tool and a skill set to where now you can kind of turn some of that negative energy into, hey, now I have this skill set that I can add to this campus. Now I can be of value to this campus, to this classroom, and I can kind of function as a mentor in a sense with some of the things that we are working on. So not really with that specific scenario, but you can use some of our resources and the things that we provide. And we do the coaching, we do the school environment, the culture management piece that we talk about a lot, how we managing the culture. That microaggression will come out in that culture, right? How we tackling those biases, right? And stuff like that. So the tools and the skills that we are providing are the pieces that hopefully are liberating you to actually redirect that energy and say, hey, now I'm of asset and I'm of value to this campus. And if I'm not of value here, then I need to go somewhere else and take.
Absolutely.
Now I have something different.
That's the key right there. That's the key.
That's what I feel like we provide.
Absolutely. That's the key. Is there anything that we haven't spoken about that you all would like to mention or discuss? No?
Absolutely. We have a book coming out. Yeah, so some of the things that you spoke about is like we do also focus on the school too. Like, how do you create a school culture that is inclusive, welcoming, reflective for your teachers.
Yeah.
So that they can also do that for your students, right? Because how
Yes.
can you expect teachers to create an environment where kids are wanting to be there and excited if you're not creating the same environment for your teachers? So
Absolutely.
part of that is in our book that's coming out this summer, where we talk around culture to the max, how to create a classroom in a school campus that is really engaging, supportive, encouraging, and inclusive for our students. So that'll be, it's actually available for pre-order now. You can get it on, help you out, y'all. We can get it on Amazon. You can get it
on Amazon. You can get it on Barnes and Noble. You can get it on Google Books, Booktopia, any of your book platforms. It's available. It's by the same publishers as Teach Like a Champion. So Wiley Publishing and Johnson Based Books. Big deal for us and a lot of the stuff that we discussed right here, especially with our 4 domains: authentic engagement, culture management, social justice curriculum, and community partnerships. With a lot of the stuff that we discussed. So if you're looking for something tangible, you can order it now, and it'll be available in the actual bookstores July 20th.
Oh, congratulations, you all. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, and that's going to change a lot of people's lives. I'm sure it will. Yeah, I'm sure it will.
One person at a time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I want to thank you all for coming and having this amazing conversation with me. And I appreciate you all so much, and keep being amazing. Keep doing what you're doing, because we so need you. Our kids need you. Our teachers need you. And so I so appreciate you, and I admire what you all are doing. So thank you so much for spending some time with me this evening.
Thank you so much for having
Thank you.
Thank
Yes.
you.
Yes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. So this is the part of the episode where we talk a little bit about some of the research, and it's really important for me as an educator and as a researcher to really give some information about how these things are coming to pass. How is it that our schools still are not providing teachers with the needed space to be able to educate our young people? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a moment. I'm going to put up the resource. Remember, I'm a person about resources. I love to provide resources so that you all can know where I get my information. It's really important for me to be able to provide resources so that you can go and dig in and get some more information yourself. And so the research from Constance Lindsay, Dr. Constance Lindsay, stated that Black students are not being served well by American schools. There continues to be a mismatch regarding the number of students of color, and that continues to grow. Students of color versus teachers who teach them, which continues to decrease. Research has found that Black and white children alike have significantly higher achievement when assigned to a teacher of their race. But because white students are far more likely to have same race teachers, they disproportionately benefit. Young Black students have improved behavior when exposed to a greater share of Black teachers. Having a Black teacher for a 1 year in elementary school raises long-run educational attainment for Black male students in particular, especially for those Black male students who come from low-income households. It actually reduces high school dropouts by 39% and raise college-going aspirations. If that's not enough of a reason for schools to hire Black teachers, that 39% raise in high school dropouts, that raise in college going aspirations, if that's not enough of a reason to make sure that you hire the adequate amount of teachers, I don't know what else would be. I don't know what else would be a good reason. There it is right there, the retention of our students finishing school and then going on to higher education. That's the reason why we want to do this, is because we want to make sure that our kids can have the life that they deserve. This episode of Student Access 101 is brought to you all by Be the GOAT Career Readiness Manual for First Generation Students and Young Professionals. And I'm excited to say that I just delivered 100 copies of this book to a school last month, and I'll be gifting several copies of this book at the Ohio Trio Conference next week. Please support my mission to provide needed professional development skills to 1,000 students by the end of this year. I am a quarter of the way there, and you can purchase a copy of the book on Amazon. If your school is looking to purchase the book in bulk, please reach out to me at info@drtamekaellington.com. Info@doctor with no period, tamekaellington.com. A course that's in association with this book is coming very, very soon. So make sure that you all keep on the lookout for that. And I just want to thank you all for listening. For those of you that stayed with me for this whole hour, thank you so much. I really appreciate you wanting to be here with me, wanting to make sure that we fight together for equitable access to education for all of our students. And together we can change the trajectory of equitable education for underrepresented students. And always remember, let's empower and educate, because there's no success without student access. Peace and blessings, everyone.